Hi, everybody. I'm Holden. I work for TCC Northwest Student Activities, and I'm actually here with Alexis Martinez today to discuss her cultural heritage to celebrate Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. Could you introduce yourself for us, Alexis?
Hi, I'm Alexis. I am a student at TCC. I actually started going there in 2013. Went to Texas Tech and then came back. So now I'm finishing up my associate's degree. This summer will be my last semester. But I also work in financial aid there. I'm the assistant. So that's me.
Awesome. What are you studying at TCC?
Right now, I'm just doing my Associates of Arts, getting my basics done, and then I am transferring over to Tarleton to study in social work, and I'm minoring in communications.
Very awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
So, actually, I have some questions for you today, if you don't mind answering those. So, first off, how do you identify culturally, and could you give a description about your cultural heritage?
I identify as Chamorro and slash Guamanian. Um, I'm from Guam. I'm also Filipino though, and I'm Chinese, so I also, the Asian part fits me too.
Awesome. You got a lot of heritage in you then from all different parts of Asia and the
Definitely
Pacific.
do.
Very cool. So you said your family's from Guam, was it?
Yes.
Awesome. Do you know about like whenever your family moved here, or did you move here with them?
I moved here with them. So my dad was in the military and he was stationed out in Guam, which is where he met my mom. They lived out there for, I want to say 3 years, and then they got married. My dad was getting out of the military. So when he moved back home, we came with him. I was, I believe, 2 or 3 at that time. So I've grown up in Texas.
Very cool. So that kind of melds together as your culture here.
Yes.
Your culture right here. Very cool. So what would you want others to know about your culture? And how has your cultural heritage affected you positively or negatively living in America?
I would like people to know that we are very welcoming people. We're very loyal to our friends and family, and we definitely try to help out anywhere we can. Holden can attest to that. He's actually a friend of mine, and he's also met my mom. And when he met her, he immediately loved her, and they talked for a little bit. And I wasn't even home, so
Very
uh,
true.
yes.
So, how has your cultural heritage affected you positively or negatively living in America?
Um, Positively, people when they ask about Guam and they don't know about it because a lot of people aren't educated on Guam, I get to share some of my insight with them and they get to learn about it. And then I have friends come back and tell me sometimes that they met someone who's from Guam and they were excited because they already knew about it. Um, Negatively, sometimes I want to say it as negative, but sometimes people don't know about Guam, so I have to explain it to them, or they make remarks about it, like if we go to school or if we live in huts and stuff like that. And sometimes it's funny, but sometimes it's kind of offensive because I mean it's 2020, so of
Yeah,
course we
exactly.
have schools and clothes and houses. We still call our cities villages, so I don't know if that's what confuses them, but I mean, we're definitely up to time.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
I know you mentioned that you are a mixture of all different heritages. Do you
Yes.
ever get mistyped or people assume?
Um, yes, people. I want to say if you're not familiar with Pacific Islanders or Micronesians or anything, you wouldn't look at me and think that I'm a Pacific Islander or Asian. A lot of people think I'm full Hispanic or full Mexican, and they automatically talk Spanish to me, and I have no idea what they're saying. But that's mostly what I get mistaken for is full Mexican or full Hispanic. And then I tell them I'm from the islands and they're like, oh, okay, now I can see that.
Guess it's never a bad time to educate people on things like that. So
Yes,
thank
never.
you. So what are some ways you would like to see your heritage incorporated into your learning experience at TCC?
Um, at TCC and as far as classes, I would like my culture and my heritage to be mentioned more in history. All growing up through high school and middle school, the only thing you ever hear about Guam in history is like maybe a paragraph or a few sentences. But we were a part of World War II. People, Japan took over our island actually and held people captive, and they stopped the learning over there. English wasn't allowed to be spoken. My great grandmother and my grandma actually and her siblings were held captive by the Japanese. So that's a big part to World War II, and now it's a U.S. territory. So I think that information is important to be shared about, and I would like to not have to explain to people where Guam is and where I'm from, and if I'm legal or if I need a passport or if I need a green card. It would be nice for people to just know because it is a U.S. territory.
Right, exactly. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, it's always good to have stories to remember that your grandparents or great grandparents have told you about your heritage, even if it's bad things, because that's something to educate other people on.
Definitely.
People assume that the world is always just a good place, which
it's definitely not.
It's true. So do you have any significant traditions regarding your heritage?
Traditions, yes. Food is a big tradition of ours. It's how we celebrate. It's how we mourn. It's how we show love. If we're, you would know that too. If I go to, if you would invite me over, I would offer to bring a dish. And it's weird because a lot of people that I know, they don't do that. They don't offer to bring anything, or they don't offer if we need help or anything like that. And I know everyone's raised differently, but that's what we're big on, is helping people. And food is a big thing, and respecting your elders. So when we would go to a party or a gathering, you would what we call amen your elders. So that's either kissing their hand or their cheek, and just saying hi to everyone. You have to address everyone. Other traditions, Christmas time, we do what's called the novena. So it's depends on which part we're doing, but it can last. How long can it last? I think 9 days. And we sing Chamorro songs and we pray. But that's also a big tradition. We do it every year. We've been doing it since I was a kid. So that's one of the biggest ones. Mm-hmm.
It's good to have some of that brought over here, keeping your cultural heritage intact. Well, thank you for sharing that. And so you mentioned that the big tradition is food for the most part. Mm-hmm. So do you have any favorite specific food dishes from your culture?
I do. My favorite is what's called karimpika. So it's pretty much chicken cut up into little pieces, and it's a soy sauce base, but you can also add in coconut milk, which is my favorite to do. I normally won't eat it unless it has coconut milk in it. So it kind of is like a thicker base, and I eat it with rice, or you can eat it by itself, but that's my favorite. We have red rice, so it's kind of similar to Mexican red rice, but it's like the taste is a little stronger, and the rice is like super, super red. But soy sauce and vinegar, what we call finadeni, is a big thing. We dip our meat in it, or we put it over our rice. You can add peppers in it, which is what I do, and onions. But that's rice and soy sauce, or finadeni, is what Chamorros usually always have in their house.
Well, for someone who hasn't eaten lunch, that sounds really good right now. You may have to bring it to the school one day when we're back. Well, thank you for sharing it with us. And so something I wanted to touch on too is that I really admire about more Asian cultures is that they're not so individualistic like we are here. So like you said, the family and other people support each other, ask if they need help. They rely on one another versus, here we try to rely on ourselves and rarely ask for help. So it takes a village. And
it does, yes.
Well, awesome. Do you have any last closing remarks you would like to leave everyone with?
Look up Guam and see how tiny it is on Google Maps. It's really fun. I love showing people that because I have a tattoo of Guam on my foot, and people always think it looks like California, which it really doesn't at all. But it's funny to show people on Google Maps where Guam is because it's so tiny and the Earth is so big, so it zooms in on this tiny little spot, and it's fun. So I would suggest doing that also so you can know where it is.
Cool. So if anyone were to visit Guam, what would you suggest them do to have a better experience and to be able to take home something other than physical things?
I would say go in July during our liberation. So that's the day. It's kind of like our 4th of July here in the States. We have a liberation on July 21st, and it's the best time to be on the island. It's tons of fiestas, tons of food. You really can get your tourists on if you're not from there. And definitely hit the beaches. There's a place called Two Lovers Point. That's a good spot to hit. It's a very good background story to learn about.
Cool. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course.
It was nice talking to you. So thank you for sharing everything and letting us know a little bit about yourself.
Thanks
Awesome.
for having me.
You're welcome.